Hey guys, welcome back. It's Kara. It's Kara, and you're welcome back to Kara's channel. Okay, I've got another topic to discuss with you today. Okay, remember my last video, I was talking about blue therapy. So, right now, I am obliged to talk to you about this situation because it has to do with something personal to me. And I can relate to this particular couple, Jermaine and Damika. They talked about how they're both AS carriers. Okay, so they have the sickle cell trait. So I will go further. So let's get straight into it. If you are from the African or Indian community, the minority, you would know that if you are an AS genotype carrier, okay, you're both AS, you cannot marry each other. We've been warned, okay? I am an AS carrier, so thankfully my husband is AA. Story of another day of how he discovered, all right, that I'm safe to continue. About my pregnancy, when I was pregnant with my son, I was so worried. Oh my gosh, I'm AS. I have to do the testing. My husband kept on saying AA, he's AA, but oh my gosh, did you do the testing? So, right now, I'm going to talk about Damika and Jermaine because they inspire me. Against all odds, they decided to stay together in blue therapy. All right. So, it's very painful what they went through. So, if you are in love with a AS person and you also an AS, your both genotypes is AS. Think again. Think again. If you don't have the financial standing to be able to face trials and tribulation that come as a result of you possibly giving birth to a sickle cell, full-blown sickle cell trait child, do not do it. But if you are willing to go against all odds and do it knowing that the chances you'll have a full-blown sickle cell child or you have the facilities to do the testing. They call it the CVS testing, known as chorionic villus sampling testing or amniocentesis testing. Okay, if you are able to have the financial standing to be able to do the testing, to know that if you do get pregnant with a child who is potentially carrying a full-blown sickle cell anemia, gene, and you are willing to make the decision to not continue with the pregnancy, then go ahead. Because Damika and Jermaine, they made this decision, okay? They were pregnant with a child. Thankfully, they have a son already. So she was pregnant with a daughter, and they had to go for the testing because they made the decision to still stay together, even though they were both AS genotype carriers, and knowing the fully well that they would still possibly give birth to a sickle cell, full-blown sickle cell anemia child. They still went ahead with it. If you're asking me why I'm talking about this, because I believe we should be educated in the African community about these things, and especially I am a nurse, so I believe that I should educate you about this. All right, so it's best you go for testing, or apart from you having to do all this other testing, if it's HIV, you know, testing that you have to do. If it's herpes or if it's syphilis or gonorrhea, all the tests you need to do as a couple together to be able to ascertain if there's any STDs involved before you make that decision to get married. Bear in mind, you have to also do this testing about the genotypes if you're African and you're both AS, all right? So Damika and Jermaine, they decided to do life together, which obviously there are some couples as well that advocate for being AS and they have a son and a daughter together and they got through it and they're not having any more kids, okay? But I lost a sister who is a full blown sickle cell anemia carrier, okay? I lost a sister. And that is why I am talking about this topic, because it hits home. That's why I can relate to what Jermaine and Damika are going through. So, yes, you have to be aware. Even this popular actress in Nigeria, Eucharia Anunobi, she came on a talk show recently. She spoke about how she lost her only son due to being a full-blown sickle cell anemic child. So, though he was grown, was he 14, 15 or more? But she lost him, and as her relationship also suffered, the man who professed his love for her, his undying love for her, saying he will be with her, that he just loves her, he couldn't cope. The husband left her eventually because of all the hospital visits, all the testing, all the bills they had to keep paying, all the crisis that is very rampant with full-blown sickle cell anemic patients. Okay, so we do have some who live with it, who have survived, but still the pain they go through is unbearable. Right. So if you are an AS carrier and you're in love with another AS carrier, think again. Think again, okay? Because you both have to go through this hemoglobin electrophoresis testing. All right. They call it genetic carrier test screening. Yes. So this is our hemoglobin levels. All right, they're always low on iron, always low on hemoglobin, always needing blood transfusion. The bones, the muscles are always aching. Okay, so if you also make the conscious effort to still go ahead, you have to be able to do the IVF, which is the pre-implantation genetic testing, PGT-M. Embryos are tested, and only those without sickle cell diseases are implanted. Okay, so that's if you have the financial standing, you are rich, you'll be able to foot the bill for going through with an AS partner and still educate your generation and generations to come. I'm educating my children as we talk about this delicate topic. Very, very important that you do the testing, okay? Because if two AS couples decide to go ahead and meet together, there's always a chance, always. They say it's 25%, but in most cases, I believe it's 100% chance that you will give birth to a sickle cell child. That's why we have to be educated on these things, all right? So, in the case of Damika and Jermaine, when they went through the testing and while she was pregnant, knowing the sex of the child, they had to make a very difficult decision to say, we cannot bring a child to this world who is going to be a full blown sickle cell anemic child who's going to be falling sick all the time, who's going to be needing medical attention all the time, transfusion and all that. And they had to not continue with the pregnancy. So I am just talking about this because it hits to home. I cannot imagine what my sister who died went through. She was always having crisis. My mom had to take care of her, whereas we're of the same mom, but we're not of the same dad. So God rest her soul. So I'm just talking about this where you can learn a thing or two today. I was just thinking I need to speak on this, all right? And now here's your chance to learn. If you're from the African or Indian community, you need to learn, all right? To make conscious decisions to be able to avoid this kind of crisis in the future. It is very, very important that you educate yourselves, all right? And there are some people who are full blown carriers who have lived and are living because they can afford to foot the bill, to be able to pay for their medicals and everything, and they're thriving. But it's still, very detrimental to the mental being of the person who is a sickle cell, full blown anemic child. You see some women who are sickle cell full-blown carriers, they have people in their lives that love them, maybe partners that want to be with them, but still because they're full-blown, the partner doesn't want to marry them. I've heard stories. And also a personal story about a lady. She's full blown. She doesn't know, because she's well to do, she's rich. She doesn't know the man who wants to be with her if he's only with her because she is successful and he is not up to her financial standing. And you still hear those that they are very picky, okay? They don't care if they're not married, they succeeded, they're in their 30s, sickle cell, full blown anemic ladies, and they're like, I don't care. If you want me for my money, I'm not marrying you. I'd rather stay single. So to each his own. So there's still a silver lining in the end if you're able to go through the testing to prevent having to give birth to a child that's going to be sickle cell, or if you're happy to stay single and fulfilled as a woman who is a sickle cell, full-blown sickle cell anemic child, a woman, or if you're willing to fight against all odds. Let us educate ourselves. If you enjoyed this speech, please subscribe for more. Okay? Until next time, keep being yourself and don't give up. Bye.